James froze at the airport the moment a man in a dark navy suit approached him, holding a thick envelope with my name, Grace Williams, written neatly across it. Ethan, my brother, stood beside him, his face drained of colour, pretending not to notice. It was the same kind of silence they'd always used against me, polite, practiced and cruel. Four days earlier, they had laughed while I walked out of my mother's dining room. Ethan's voice still echoed in my ears. "You're not part of the family anymore. Don't show up." No one corrected him. No one said my name. I didn't shout or argue. I simply left. And now, standing in that airport, their world was finally beginning to crumble. The same way they had once dismantled mine. Before I tell you what truly happened that night, take a moment to breathe. Tell me where you're listening from and ask yourself this. Have you ever drawn a line with family and refused to erase it? That Sunday was supposed to mean something. Victoria, my mother, called it family dinner, like it was a sacred ritual. She believed the word family could repair anything, even the fractures she helped create. I spent most of that afternoon in my apartment, layering lasagna, brushing garlic butter over warm bread, and choosing a bottle of Merlot I could barely afford. It wasn't about the meal. It was a peace offering. A quiet, desperate attempt to belong again. Their house smelled of cinnamon candles and nostalgia. Sweet, artificial, exhausting. I could hear laughter from the dining room as I stepped through the door, but it died the second I entered. My father, James, looked up from his phone, nodded once like I was a stranger he recognized but didn't remember well. My mother smiled, the kind of smile she saved for neighbours she didn't like. And Ethan, my brother, leaned back in his chair, his arm around Madison, bragging about a new business deal. The same business I'd secretly rescued 3 times without ever getting credit. I placed my dishes on the table. The steam fogged the cheap plastic runner. No one made room. Dinner began like every other family gathering. Loud, messy, full of stories that didn't include me. They talked about the upcoming reunion in the spring, exchanging hotel names and dates as if I were invisible. I nodded when it seemed polite to. My heart beat harder than it should have. I didn't want an invitation. I wanted to be seen. When the conversation paused, I spoke softly. "Just tell me when the reunion is. I'll book early this time." The silence afterward felt endless. My mother's fork scraped her plate. Ethan avoided eye contact. My father cleared his throat and offered more bread. The air thinned. Maybe it was the exhaustion behind my calm voice, or the way Victoria refused to meet my eyes. Maybe I was finally old enough to recognize cruelty when it was dressed in manners. I poured myself a small glass of wine, sat back, and watched the scene unfold like theatre. Ethan, the golden child basking in attention. Victoria, the silent diplomat. James, the man who confused control with love. I told myself to stay calm, not to ruin another Sunday. But something inside me knew the truth. Peace that demands your silence isn't peace. It's surrender. That was the last Sunday I tried to earn my place at their table. The pause stretched longer than comfort allowed. Then Ethan finally looked up. His smirk was familiar. That sharp grin he used when he wanted to wound without leaving a mark. "You're not part of the family," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Don't show up." No one gasped. No one stopped him. My mother hid her smile behind her napkin. My father laughed, a short metallic sound that filled the room and stabbed through the air. The others joined in. It was strange how laughter could hurt more than words. I looked down at the lasagna I'd made, the steam still curling from it. I felt the heat crawl up my neck, not from anger, but from the shame of realizing this moment had been rehearsed long before I arrived. I set my glass down gently, folded my napkin, and pushed my chair back slowly enough to make them notice. Ethan chuckled. "Come on, Grace, can't you take a joke?" I met his eyes. "You meant it," I said quietly. He didn't deny it. None of them did. I took my coat from the chair. My mother's voice followed, polite and hollow. "Grace, stay. It's just dinner." "No," I said, sliding my arms into my sleeves. "It's a message, and I got it." The night outside was cold enough to sting. Behind me, laughter returned, muffled through the door. I stood on the porch for a long moment, breathing in the frost until my chest stopped trembling. Then I walked to my car, lasagna untouched in my hands. There's a silence that doesn't need to be explained. It announces its own ending. I didn't cry. I didn't slam the door. I just drove home through empty streets, headlights cutting through fog, repeating one thought over and over. This is the last time I'll try to belong somewhere that laughs when I bleed. The next morning, sunlight poured through the blinds, turning dust into floating snowflakes. My phone sat face down on the counter. No calls, no texts, no apologies. I made coffee and tried to convince myself that this quiet was peace. But peace built on avoidance isn't peace. It's waiting for the next wound. By the second day, the calm cracked. I checked my phone. Nothing. By the third, I told myself I was done caring. On the fourth, my phone finally buzzed. A message from Ethan. "Hey." Weird question. "Did your bank block the transfer? The payment didn't go through." No greeting, no apology, just money talk. I stared at the message, then typed 4 words that had waited years to exist. Me, not family, not funded. I blocked his number. My hands didn't shake. A calm spread through me, the kind that comes before a storm, except this time, it wasn't mine to weather. An hour later, another message appeared, this time from my father. I didn't open it. I just flipped the phone and let it buzz until it stopped. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. That night, I sat surrounded by years of receipts and bank records, small financial wounds I'd disguised as love. $200 here, $500 there, $1,000 when things nearly fell apart. My generosity had been their safety net and their leash. With a yellow highlighter, I marked each payment. The papers glowed like bruises under lamplight. When I was done, I whispered to no one. "That's over now." Rain tapped against the glass. For once, it didn't sound lonely. The next day, my phone stayed silent. I knew how this worked. People who feed on you panic when you stop bleeding. By evening, a knock echoed through the door. Then another. I looked through the peephole. James and Ethan. Their rhythm was entitled, demanding. I stood in the center of the room, tea in hand, heartbeat steady. I didn't answer. I just listened until their pounding faded into the hum of their SUV pulling away. That's when I learned. Silence is a mirror. It shows people who they are when they can't use you anymore. When the night settled, I looked at the highlighted stack and smiled, not out of joy, but out of understanding. 4 days ago, I left their house with nothing. Tonight, I had something better. Boundaries that couldn't be refunded. 3 days later, an envelope arrived. Plain white, my name written in my father's careful script. Inside, $400 in 20s, no note, just cash. Guilt disguised as generosity. I stared at it for a while, then slid it under the table. When the evening light turned orange, I picked it up and dropped it into the trash. The soft thud of bills hitting plastic felt cleaner than forgiveness ever could. An hour later, my phone rang. James. I answered on the 4th ring. "Why?" I asked before he could start. He sighed, that rehearsed sigh he used before excusing cruelty. "The payment failed," he said quickly. "Just a misunderstanding. It's not like we used you, Grace. Don't take it personally." I laughed once, sharp and short. "That's the problem. You never did." He said my name again, softer this time, but I ended the call. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about ownership. They had built a world where my worth depended on what I gave, and now that world was collapsing. That night, I printed every statement, every Venmo, every favor, until the printer groaned. Over 2 years, I'd given them $20,000, I highlighted every transaction tied to Ethan, stacked the pages, and wrote on the first, "This is who I've been. Ask yourself who you've been." The next morning, I mailed it. No tracking number. If it got lost, that was fine. It had already done its job. By afternoon, the calls doubled. Victoria left voicemails trembling with fake concern. "Things got out of hand, sweetheart. Come for lunch, we'll talk." Then another at midnight. "Family gets through things, Grace. Ethan's under pressure." 4 times she said family, like a spell that no longer worked. On the 5th day, an email came. Subject line, repayment plan. Ethan had made a spreadsheet, colour-coded, ridiculous. He listed amounts he might pay back next year. At the bottom he wrote, "Let's move past this. We're family, right?" I stared at that word until it blurred. Then came a call from an unknown number. "Ms. Williams, this is Thomas Reed from Greenlight Legal. We're confirming your co-signature on a $10,000 business loan for Ethan Williams." My pulse stopped. "Excuse me?" "There appear to be inconsistencies with your signature," he said calmly. "You won't be held liable. We'll be in touch." When the call ended, I sat frozen. They hadn't just taken my money. They'd stolen my name. I called a lawyer I knew, Ms. Parson. Her voice was cool and precise. "This isn't misunderstanding," she said. "It's identity fraud. Stay calm. Document everything. We'll handle it quietly." Quietly. The word felt right. They thrived on chaos. Silence was how I'd beat them. I documented everything, every message, forged document, payment. I labelled the folder, paper cut, small wounds that finally bled the truth. The next morning, Ms. Parson sent a cease and desist to Ethan's office. 2 hours later, he emailed me, "You think you're better than us now? You'll regret this." I didn't reply. Instead, I packed a small bag and drove to my grandfather Robert's cottage, the one place that had ever felt safe. He opened the door before I could knock. "Took you long enough," he said, smiling faintly. When I told him everything, the dinner, the forgery, the threats, he didn't flinch. "They'll always take you for granted if you stay small," he said, pouring tea. "Stand up and they'll call you tall like it's an insult." Rain started again outside. "What should I do?" I asked. "You already did it," he said simply. 2 weeks later, James and Ethan stood in the middle of the airport when a man in a navy suit handed them a thick envelope with my name on it. Official, final, undeniable. I wasn't there, but Miss Parson texted me 2 words. "They've been served." I stared at the message, feeling no victory, no guilt, just a quiet release, like someone turning on a light in a room I'd lived in too long in the dark. When the legal storm passed, justice unfolded exactly as it should. Ethan's fake loan voided, his accounts frozen, my father's name tangled in his lies. Ms. Parson handled everything with surgical calm. She didn't gloat. Neither did I. Justice doesn't need applause. It just needs to work. I didn't check on them after that. I didn't have to. Word spread. Ethan's business collapsed, James's credit ruined, Victoria retreating from neighbours who'd stopped believing her stories. One night my mother called. I almost ignored it, but something in me, the part that remembered her brushing my hair as a child, made me answer. "I'm sorry, Grace," she said, her voice trembling. "For all of it. For not protecting you. For letting them use you." I didn't cry. I just listened. When she asked if I'd come to the reunion, I said softly, "No, Mom. I can forgive you from here." She didn't argue, just whispered, "I love you," and hung up. That night I sat on my balcony wrapped in a blanket that smelled faintly of rain. The city lights shimmered below, steady and uncaring. On the table beside me sat the envelope of receipts, proof of everything. I slipped it into a drawer. Some truths don't need to be revisited. They just need to exist. I made tea, turned off my phone, and breathed. For the first time in years, peace didn't feel like silence bought through endurance. It felt like something I'd built, through courage, boundaries, and the refusal to keep bleeding for people who never noticed the wound. I used to think peace meant everyone getting along. Now I know it means walking away and still wishing them well. Their reunion went on without me. The table perfectly set, one empty chair in the middle. That space said everything I never had to. If you've ever had to choose yourself over people who kept taking, remember, silence isn't weakness, it's recovery. Thank you for listening to my story. Tell me where you're watching from, and if you've ever had to draw a line with family. Your stories keep this space honest. And don't forget to hit subscribe. There's more truth where this came from.